Hey everyone, it's Karen. Okay, so this is my second week doing this new series called Out Today, in which I tell you what has come out today. And at some point, it would be really cool if I could tell you more than one book that's out today and have actually read them and all that sort of stuff. However, last week and this week, I've only read one book that is coming out today or came out today. But I've been very reinforced for doing this project because last week and this week, I have been absolutely in love with the books. 5 stars, something in both cases that I would like to own and have on my shelves because basically I try and keep all the books that I absolutely love on my shelves, and then I get rid of the ones that were fine but I don't need to keep around. Anyway, the book I read on my Kindle for today was America the Beautiful, and that is by Blythe Roberson. Basically, it is kind of a travel memoir and also outdoorsy. It is essentially about this woman who quits her job and just decides to camp for free around America. She kind of has this mission that she started as a kid where she does these junior ranger booklet things in national parks and collects badges along the way. And so it's kind of one of the things that is encouraging her travels, I guess, is just to get more of these junior ranger badges. And it's not really the badge per se, although she seems like someone that's highly motivated by like checking off all the boxes and finishing a list and like completing something, but it's more about just discovering America and learning about different places she visits in a really deep way. And so let me just tell you a little bit about what it's about beyond that and basically why she's written it, because even though the nature writing pulls me in, the travel writing pulls me in, the like solo female traveler pulls me in, there's so much more to this book that just like brings it from something amazing to like next level, and I absolutely loved it. So while she's talking about all this stuff, she basically tells you that she has decided to write this because the American road trip is just like, it's part of our canon. It's something that is just this thing that everyone knows about, that everyone craves. Like when summer comes, you crave a good road trip. And there are so many pieces of travel writing that have covered this adventure, but not very many of them are written by women. And so like legit quote from the book, she basically says that she wants to write a book like, what if Bill Bryson got his period? So with that being said, like I'm all in for this, right? So the first thing that really sucked me in is she's talking about what it's like to be a solo woman, adventurer, traveler, or even not even solo, but just thinking about women traveling in general. And so when she tells people that she quit her job and she's gonna go on this road trip, like basically every conversation ended with them, or didn't even end, but included them at some point telling her she was gonna get raped or murdered and she needed to be careful. And that is the sort of conversation, those are the sort of conversations people have with you when you are going on adventures. And it's just so problematic. Number one, that instead of people being excited for you, they tend to fixate on your safety. Number two, there's so much thought and additional money that has to be spent making sure that you are safe. So last summer was my first summer backpacking, and you need to think about, what do I need to have supply-wise to make sure that I'm keeping my physical body safe? And for guys, that might include like a bear canister or, a tent that is going to be a good shelter. And for women, we need to think about all that stuff. Plus, what about if someone makes us feel uncomfortable? What about if they physically make us unsafe? Like, what are the ways that we can protect ourselves? And so going backpacking costs a lot more money, or whatever your travel adventure is, because we need to buy all these items that other people don't need to buy. The other thing is just kind of about that when you are backpacking, it's just, and I'm talking about backpacking because that's like what I love the most, but when you're out in nature, there's this sense of always needing to be aware, and that's because you're in nature and you need to be just aware of your surroundings and making sure that your body is being kept safe from animals, from wildlife, from like plants, or like falling off the cliff, or like whatever. All that is stuff that anybody needs to be aware of when they're outside. But then there's this extra level of just awareness of people and trying to kind of get the vibe off people. There's one time last summer when I was backpacking by this solo guy, and he was so friendly and so like lovely, but you just have to have that sense of just being careful and being aware, and just kind of trying to make sure that you're safe, and like kind of like a distance friendliness, if that's a thing. Anyway, I also had a conversation with somebody once, and this just blurted out of their mouth, and they later apologized, but it wasn't that they were apologizing for what they said, because I think they genuinely meant it. It was more like they were apologizing for my reaction to it. Anyway, they were saying that if I like got hurt or murdered or raped, that it would be my fault because I was alone and I shouldn't be alone, and that it was really sad that women can't be alone, you know, walking around their neighborhood or going backpacking or whatever, but that's the way our world is, and sorry, if you got hurt, it's your own fault. And that was something that was kind of brought up in this book as well, about just all this pressure on women to keep themselves safe, and that if anything happens, it's your own fault. And then finally, in regards to that, she quoted Adrienne Rich, who said the role of male violence is in keeping all women subordinate. So it's just interesting how that fear plays into all this. She also kind of went more into feminism by talking about the percentage of women who were married like back in the day compared to now, and how fewer people are married now, and people are delaying having children or not having children at all. And there's, even if you're married and even if you have children, there's this sense of freedom and passion in being fully yourself as a human being, and making sure that you're still including time for your interests and the things that bring you joy. And so that is something that is kind of newer, I guess, and is why there are probably way more travel memoirs and things like that written by men, because it's just like a newer idea that women can be creative and create art as well as just being home and supporting the guys that want to do that. She talks a lot about race as well, and about how when you picture like people who are outdoorsy, like what type of a person do you picture, and if you go to a national park, who's visiting there? And she talks about how only 21% of visitors were people of color. And when I say people of color, I think most of you already know that that includes so many more types of people than just Black people. And if you took like the percentage of Black people in America and compare that to the percentage of park visitors, they are like way underrepresented in the visitors to a national park. On the flip side of that, the majority of people who work in the national parks are white. There's 80% of the people who are employed are white. And I guess I didn't realize until I started working at the nature center by my house just how prestigious it is to work for the National Park Service. And so like, I'm just wondering what they can do to make sure that they're hiring broader groups of people so that it's more than 80% that are visible in the parks. Another thing that was really interesting, and like all this is stuff that you kind of already know, but it's stuff that like when someone speaks of it, you want to just hand them the microphone and just like stand on a table and preach it. So she talks about how much joy she gets from the national parks and how there's so many things in her life that bring her such joy. And they're all because of white men, and not in like a good way, like thank you for the national parks, but in a way where like basically indigenous people own this land. White people stole it from them. And then we like celebrate these kind, like people that are willing to donate so much money or so much land so that people have a place to enjoy recreation and just return to nature and all that stuff. But like it was never really theirs to give, and the reason they were giving it was because of their power, and it's just interesting. She also talks a lot about climate change, and it's really funny. So she's doing these like junior ranger booklets along the way, which are these little booklets that you do, and they help you learn about the park. And there's a lot of kid activities in there. So you're learning about the park, but there's also like random word searches and just little kid activities. But in them, I don't know when the last time they were updated or how frequently they're kind of edited and revised. But this one particular one talked about like how when you brush your teeth, one way to protect nature is to like turn the water off while you're brushing, and just like stuff like that, like take a shower, not a bath, all that sort of stuff. And she was just like, oh, just do you remember the times when like as a kid, like you thought that that was enough to like help the environment and like make climate change stop, and we're just not there anymore, and it's just so sad. I think that is all the random notes that I took on it. I'm like surrounded by these little sticky notes. I would say that this is definitely something that you should read if you're into nature, if you're into travel, if you're into like books that are written by strong women who are also hilarious. Like this book is really, really funny as well. The only thing I will say is that this is a very like American read. So if you live in a different country, like I'm not saying you wouldn't like it, you totally would, but just realize this is not like an international perspective. It's definitely like the American road trip story. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I love this. 5 stars. Oh, I just held up 10 fingers, but 5 stars. Please read this. If you do, let me know what you think. And yeah, I am excited to see what I'm going to read next. I don't know what is coming up, but I know on May 2nd, I have like so many books on NetGalley, like way too many. It's impossible for me to get to all of them. But I do know the author of Cutting for Stone has a new book that's coming out on May 2nd. So that is kind of my first priority. Anyway, I will check in either next Tuesday or the Tuesday after if I decide just to focus on May 2nd books. But yeah, let me know if you read this. I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.